Okay, so here's a function. They want us to find the x-intercept, or remember that's the zeros. So we're saying, well, when does x cubed minus 5x squared minus x plus 5 equals 0? So we're setting it to 0. We're going to factor by grouping. So what I usually have students do when I teach factoring by grouping is draw a little line separating the two. There are other ways to factor by grouping, but this one's going to work with the first two and the last two. Look for a greatest common factor in the first two, which there is one, x squared. So factor that out. Then you have to remember that whatever this sign is right there, you're going to factor that out. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1. Now when I do that, and this is coming out of the last two terms, I'll have x minus 5. So think about that distributing. Negative 1x, negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5, and that all works. Notice that this binomial and this binomial are the same. That is what allows us to factor this by grouping. So it's not, it's the original, I guess, equation here is not quadratic. So you can't use the quadratic formula. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to use a quadratic formula here, no, you can't do that. And we don't have exactly a handy formula to go to a higher degree where you have an x cubed. But sometimes you can factor them by grouping. And in this case, we can. Okay, so notice that this binomial and this binomial are the same. So you're going to factor that out. And that's going to give you x minus 5 times x squared minus 1. And you could write it the other way, but this is fine. And if you think about distributing, that would be the first part, and then that would be the second part. But x squared minus 1, that's the difference of squares, so I can factor this. And I get x minus 5 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. And then from there, I can see what the x-intercepts are going to be. So I'll go ahead and write them underneath. So I'm going to have 5, negative 1, and 1. And then if you want to put them in order from smallest to largest, you can. So x-intercepts. And I'm going to go ahead and write them as ordered pairs. So negative 1 comma 0, 1 comma 0, and 5 comma 0. I'm not picky if you put them in that order, but sometimes, you know, they like a little order to it. I don't think WebAssign is picky on that. Okay, those are the x-intercepts. I'm not going to talk about the graph here, but you could think about that on your own if you want.